And ladies and gentlemen, I know this isn't the beautiful face that you are used to, but this is the voice of reason. We are live on a Tuesday evening, and we are streaming on two of our channels. Hopefully, we'll get there. We go. Now we got Facebook online. Now we got all of our friends visible to us. My name is Andy Van Beber. I am not the beautiful face of Sean Phillips, and so I'm not used to sitting in the host chair. But as always, we are joined by Travis Kirkendall, and look up there in the top right-hand corner. We have the lovely, beautiful, entertaining, sexy Hank
Easy.
Owens. I'm just getting happy just sitting here. That's just all there is to it. I'm getting happy sitting here. My pants are dancing, and whatever else I can do. I'm excited. I'm glad that we have Hank Owens on. How are you guys doing?
First off, I gotta say I love how it's not Dwayne Johnson on. It's actually just Hank this time.
Yes.
It didn't give me an option.
Well, we do want to apologize for that. We actually, the same demons visited us tonight, and I almost thought we weren't going to be able to make it on, but we are on, and it seems to be a thing with Zoom. So we found our way around that. But thank you for joining us, Travis. Did we have to work late tonight, or are you on a good schedule tonight?
No, tonight I actually worked a normal 8 hour and some change day. It was kind of nice. So,
fantastic.
Yeah, not like Monday night. This worked out perfect. But I gotta say, we're using Google Meet, and I actually kind of like this so far.
Yeah, it's going to take some getting used to. We'll probably be using Google Meet. I'm sure this will affect our sponsorship with Zoom. Said no one ever. But so Hank, how are things over in the great city of Kansas City?
It's good. It was like 70 degrees yesterday, and now
well,
some sleet and snow tomorrow. And
oh, you're serious? Oh my God! Well,
yeah,
I'm supposed to have my first track meet of the year tomorrow, and we're looking at a track meet with rain and 49 degrees. And I wanted to say to the dude I was like, seriously, you're really wanting to do this? This is what you're wanting to go with? So I took it. I'm going to take it for what it is, and we're going to go with it. So.
Oh yeah, you got a little bit over season.
Yeah, basketball season's over, and hopefully I am finally retired from basketball, and I don't have to worry about doing it anymore. People always want to remind me of the glory days. I had one of my buddies call me today, and he was talking about one of my players he's getting. He's like, "Oh, you did great." I was like, "Nope, don't even try talking me into it. Not happening. Not going anywhere. No." So
are you just gonna do track? What's your future?
Track, and I mean, I'm not calling Quiz Bowl a sport, but I mean, we are exercising the mind and everything, so. But I've done track now this is starting my 20th year in track, coaching track. I love it, and it's great, you don't have to worry about getting the bench warmers in because there's no bench, and you get everybody moving. So I believe. Let's see. Did both of you guys did track for me, didn't you?
Yep.
Oh yeah. I think.
And
Hank, it's great.
Hank, we injured your back on the high jump, did we not?
There's many things that did that, so you're not.
I think you irritated it just like by running, like during a sprinting event one time too.
Oh, man.
I remember the first thing that did it was a down and back in 8th grade basketball.
No.
Our buddy Jack said that he was faster than me, and I was like, I'm gonna kick your ass, and I broke my back.
Oh my gosh, that's
And he's been faster than me ever since.
Ever since, bastard. But no. So we are looking at a couple of different things tonight, and if you've been watching anything. The economy. I mean, we could choose from a wide plethora of everything. I'm sure we'll get back to this. I just read this morning there is a new a new strain of COVID that's going through China, and they're doing their whole lockdown thing. We're going to talk about the Fed rates here in a little bit. One thing I hope that we do talk about next week, Travis, and I'm speaking, we saw the first, I don't know if you guys saw this or not, but the first transgender NCAA athlete won the national champion of the 100-meter freestyle in swimming, and so that's and not only did this dude win, he's ranked number one in the women's on the women's side, but when he was on the men's side, he was ranked like number 436. So, if you don't like the way it's going, go over to the other side and get in that way, I guess. So, but
No, I think that's going to be a pretty interesting conversation.
yeah,
I think we're going to
and
have a good guest on for
oh,
that subject, right?
yes, we have to figure out the logistics. The guest that we're having on, and somebody can give us an idea on this one. The guest that we have is actually stationed in Samoa. And so Samoa is 13 hours ahead of us. So we have to find out the logistics of that. But that'll be something different for us to do. But
Yeah.
anyway, why don't we lead in, guys, and talk about what the Fed is planning on doing. Travis, if you want to go ahead and start us off, and we'll go from there.
Yeah. So, for those, if you've paid attention to the economy or interest rates at all, you know that interest rates have been, Hank, they were even negative at one point, weren't they? Didn't they go negative? Or has this been like zero for the longest time?
I don't know about negative, but yeah, they've been all-time lows. I feel like
Yeah. I
everybody's
mean,
trying to refinance everything. You've heard
I
the
know.
whole
I'm thankful I got
madness
my
for
home.
that. Yeah.
We
But yeah, so they're talking about, what was it, 25 points is what Jerome Powell was stating. They were going to raise it 25 points. And then, like,
Hmm.
20, yeah,
I think there was a whole plan for the next, was it 6 to 9 months? They're going to
Yes.
continually raise it. I
Yep.
forget what the point or
Reuters,
structure was of how they're going to do it.
Reuters reported yesterday that would be the short-term policy rate pinned for 2 years near zero to a range of 2.25 to 2.5 by the end of the year, higher than 2.5% by the end of the year, higher than the 1.9% Fed policymakers just anticipated last week. And so, again, what they're looking at is, going up, like you said, 25, at least by 25%. And yeah, I mean, what do you think? What is this? Well, first of all, let's just talk from your specialty angle first, Hank. What is this? What will this do for investments as people are looking forward to the retirement? Are they going to change what they're going to be investing in or how they're investing? I mean, obviously, I read a couple speculations that people say, surely not. People are not going to start looking back into to CDs and stuff like that, are they? I mean, what's going to be as far as the investment side of this? What's going to be the long term effect on this?
I don't know, really. You got to have a crystal ball for that. No one has that. But so when you think of like lowering interest rates, the Fed does that to stimulate the economy, right? So that makes sense. We want to get more money in the economy. We want to get that going. I've always struggled with raising interest rates. It doesn't make much sense. Like inflation's high. Why would we want to raise borrowing costs? The way I've always looked at it, the way I've always been explained, the Fed uses interest rates as sort of like a gas pedal and a brake pedal
Mm-hmm.
for the economy. So on the flip side, we're lowering rates to stimulate the economy, we're now raising rates to kind of pump the brakes on the economy.
Is it?
So
I
go
mean,
ahead.
do you think that of course, the report came out in December that inflation was as high as it had been in what they say 24 years.
I
This
thought it was 40.
Well, that's right.
Yeah,
You're
I
right.
heard
40
40.
years. 40 years. You're right. 40 years. And so you're talking back in my elementary school days. And so when you do a price comparison of that, so 40 years ago would have been 1982. Okay, so in 1982, we had just come out of the gas. We've been about 5 years removed, 6 years removed from the gas shortage, from that gas shortage, and gas was back down around where it should have been. But you still were seeing by 1982, your minimum wage was 275. A gallon of gas, I believe the research that I did yesterday was that somewhere around 75 cents a gallon. Your loaf of bread was somewhere in the neighborhood of 20 to 25 cents. A gallon of milk was around 75 cents. Is I mean, is inflation? And I've posed this question to my kids before at school. Is inflation something that is just a mind trick? Do you think? I mean, because when you say, okay, we're going to raise wages, and everybody's like, yay, we're going to raise wages, but then if inflation occurs, is this an attempt by the feds to try to level the playing field again?
I mean, it's definitely an attempt to try to slow down inflation. I mean, I'm not in those meetings. We can get into, is it Putin's fault? Is it whatever? It's most likely the $8 trillion we printed off during COVID and stimulus checks. So I don't know, and I really like your opinion on. I think you mentioned this 2 weeks ago. Your friend said they think it's all a ruse because of the approval ratings
Uh,
are at all time
well,
lows, and we can just flip it and
well, and so here's what we said a couple weeks ago, and I had mentioned this a couple weeks ago on the podcast that this was a discussion between a bunch of us history teachers. We were sitting around in a quiz bowl meet, and the discussion that they said was, you know, because the Democrats are dead in the water right now, because this is something, you know, COVID's a fail, okay? Uh, Build Back America is minimal at best, and you're not getting the numbers you want out of the economy. So what do you do? Do you stay? I mean, do you use? I don't think Putin was a ruse, but we looked at this. What was it, Travis? 3 weeks ago, we looked at the whole gas price thing, and this whole, to me, the gas price thing doesn't make any sense at all, because when we looked at
No.
this, we only get 1.3% of our fuel from Russia. The thing about and then everybody throws out there the Keystone Pipeline. That's a ruse, because the extension was the thing that needed to be built. Keystone already has a pipeline. We're still getting oil from Canada, so
Right.
this push on the oil, in a lot of analysts' views, is the oil market using a terrible situation to as an excuse to pump up prices, which, I mean, we saw happen during 9/11. We saw happen during the first days of the Iraq War, of back during the first Desert Storm back in the 90s. We saw all of these attempts. Oil supply, you say, okay, there, and it's not, and I also don't want to buy in, though. I want to put the disclaimer on there that it isn't all this. Well, the Joe Biden stickers. I did that. I mean, well, I got a one of my former students is studying abroad right now and is London, and she said to me, "Do you know what the price of gas is in London right now for a gallon of gas?" And I was like, "I don't know, $5, $6." And she said,
It's
"It."
terrible.
She said it boils down to about 7.75. Of course, they do everything by liters, but she said it boils down to about 7.75 a gallon. So Biden has no effect on that, you know, and
Yeah.
so to me, this inflationary push, I don't quite get, and so now I look at this raised by the Fed. The first thing that I'm going to be saying is, okay, what's really the drive behind this? Because I mean, let's look at that. Travis, you mentioned housing right now. If you don't mind me asking, what kind of rate did you get when you got your house?
3%.
Okay, and I actually paid down to get 3.25. Actually, this week, and that's actually a good point. our poll question on our, and let me bring up the poll question real quick. Our poll question this week on our group page, and again, thank you for everybody who responded. That was, I put on there this week's question was, what was the lowest rate that you had played for interest rate and forever that you've ever paid? We had see so we had 11 votes total, 5 votes for 2 to 3%. We had 3 votes for 0 to 2%, and we had 3 votes for 3 to 5%, and then we had 1 vote for 6 to 8%. Okay, and so I mean, when you look at the housing market right now, construction is through the roof. We already know what the story is with building supplies. Again, building
Yeah.
supplies, and there's always the thousand reasons for that as to why building supplies are, oh, the COVID and this that. And let's. I mean, is it safe to say that we can't use the COVID shutdown as an excuse anymore, or is that still premature?
I don't know. I'd like to think that we're past that. I mean, to the point now, it's like really like this has been going on for 2+ years now. At this
Well,
point, we're right at.
Friday the 13th was we we remembered it because Friday the 13th was the last day that we had school, and and so that's been. I mean, we're 2 plus. We're over 2 plus years now. So I mean, I think that it's
I don't know. I just because my brother he's in the transportation industry, and from what my dad and him have talked about, I mean, they're still fighting these supply shortages. I mean, the demand is just through the roof for everything. So I guess there is that argument. I mean, coming from their perspective, they're dealing with it every day. Um, but I guess it depends on what it is too. I think a lot of it people are just making excuses.
well, but when you look at this whole, let's mention the supply chain real quick. All right, we're still now. So we're 6 months into this crisis. Actually, more than that, probably closer to 8 months into the supply chain crisis. Okay, and if you look at, and you can still look at images of Long Beach, California, and they're still backed up. I mean, what they still got them lined up at Long Beach, and this is why I'm thinking it's premature to do this interest rate raise, because let's talk worst case scenario real quick. Okay, so let's say we raise interest rates. What would that take our interest rate to then? But basically it'll be between 3 and 4. Is that what we're looking at then, or is it going to be higher than
Well,
that?
how do the points convert to percentage? Do you know, Hank? I'm not familiar with
Yeah.
the.
So a basis point is 0.01%.
Okay.
So 25 basis points would be like a quarter of a percent.
Okay. So your question was what are we looking at
Yeah. What are
for?
we? So what are we going to be looking at here? How much are we going to be looking at? So
Of like in total increase.
yeah.
I don't remember what the plan was. Did you say?
I want to say it went to like it was like 8 times, like up to 8 times or some number like that, like
Within the next,
staggered out.
yeah, within the
Like
next, right, within the next year.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
and to me that's going to, well,
so
what
you're
I'm
looking at 6 to 8%.
right. So what I'm afraid of is going to be when that
Or
jump
no?
happens. Okay, so what if everything, then by some miracle of God, everything falls into line? We get the supply chain, going. Okay, we get this, whatever this cluster fudge is right now with Russia. We get that gets back into line, and oil prices drop. Okay, so then my worry is going to be what's going to happen then to this having a higher interest rate. Are we going to slow the economy down too much? That's the concern that I have right now. And I may be just talking out of my butt on this, but I mean, what do you guys? I mean, what do you guys think?
So that is a risk of raising rates too quickly. It could cause unemployment. layoffs, which could cause a new recession. Um, I think that's why they're going in increments. I'm not working for the Fed, and I told you guys yesterday. I don't even like when you guys say that I'm a financial expert. I'm just another dude that's just worked in the industry by
Oh man,
by luck for the last
you
7
are
years.
the expert, Hank. What are you talking about?
I'm just another white guy with an opinion.
I know that, but you're a great white guy with an opinion. So,
Easy.
but I my the other problem that is going to come into play, and this is really is if you we are I don't think we're at a point of hyperinflation yet. We haven't been at a point of hyperinflation, like I said, since the 80s. And where hyperinflation takes in, and you see where people are, and I mean this is what I lived through in the 80s. I lived through my buddies whose dads were, who were union guys, for Chrysler, when they still had the Chrysler plant down in St. Louis, when they had, when Boeing had more operations in St. Louis, and these guys their dads are getting laid off, and the demand, because interest rates. I'll give you this. When I was my first job, I was a paper boy, and I went from a paper boy, and then I worked at an antique shop, and then I had my own lawn care business. By the time I was, and again, granted, I want you guys to put this in perspective. This was in 1986, 87. Okay. I had saved up in a 3 year time span. I'd saved up $1,000. Okay. And $1,000 for a 13-year-old back that's a lot of cash. My dad recommended to me, he said, okay, and I still have the paperwork to prove this. I put in it was a 24-month CD at 13%. Okay. And I I made money on that. And
Damn.
people, I mean, you have to look at, people were not buying new cars. I mean, if you bought a new car, especially where I grew up in Central Illinois. Okay. Blue collar heaven. And these guys, I never, my parents, the first brand new car that my dad bought was last year or 2 years ago. And he never bought a brand new car. None of my buddies' dads, I mean, my two best friends, my one best friend was, his dad was a prison guard. The other guy worked for the water plant there in Waverly. The other guy, my other buddy, his dad was deceased, and his mom was living off Social Security. So nobody, and I mean, Janine's dad was a pipe fitter, union pipe fitter, making, out of all of my friends, Janine's dad was making the most money, and he wasn't buying a new car. I mean, they went to buy cars at police auctions. And so the point I'm making is, you don't remember a lot of new construction back in the day. You don't remember a lot of people buying cars back in the day. And it was because of the fact that your dollar, I mean, wages were, my first minimum wage job in 1988 was 3.25 an hour. And, you didn't have the money to buy. And so I don't want to see us return to that situation. And I think the point I kind of got off chasing a rabbit earlier is on, when people get excited about this minimum wage increase, it's an attempt to try to get to where people can live off of a minimum wage, living wage, at a living wage rate. But, and maybe this is the Fed's attempt to try to make that happen. Who knows? I mean, what do you guys think?
I will say I've noticed there's been a big push with a lot of jobs you wouldn't think would do this. A lot of jobs are going union. I don't
Yes.
know if you saw the news with Starbucks. They're in New York. They're starting a union for Starbucks workers, starting at
Really?
25 an hour.
Really?
Yeah, and I can tell you a lot of people in telecom are really upset because, for those who don't know, majority of telecommunications are non-union, and we get paid quite significantly less than most blue collar trades. But that's off topic. But there has been a big push for union and more benefits and more pay. And, you got to wonder, like you were saying, is that just, are we trying to compensate for, well, I guess we are trying to compensate for inflation by raising wages so that people can live off of what the prices are for now. So at the end of the day, are you really making more money? I don't really think so.
Well, to me, it is and this is Hank. This is definitely something I want to bring you in on because we can't. Me trying to plan for the future right now, and you and I have had this conversation. I remember when you first, way back when you were working for Northwestern Mutual, you and I had this conversation at length about okay, trying to plan for your future. What I could say. I'm at getting close to retirement age now. That okay, what's it going to be like? I can afford to live off what I make right now. We live. The Lord blesses us with, and we're able to pay our bills. But I think the concern is now that I mean, is this an attempt to try to regulate things to where people maybe can live better in the future, or am I thinking too far ahead?
Yeah, I mean, I have no idea. But if you just look at the basic principles of lowering rates to stimulate the economy, raising rates to slow it down, there's supply chain issues, whether who knows what that's from. There's inflation issues, who knows what that's from. I mean, those are all different topics and debates for maybe later tonight or a different week. But what they're trying to do is raise rates so that spending kind of stops, slow it down,
Well,
just like you were talking about in the 80s. So that's essentially we got to pump the brakes. There's a quote that I heard the other day: treating treating inflation in the economy with interest rates is like treating cancer with chemotherapy. It's going to be painful. It's not going to be
Yeah.
fun, but it's like your last ditch effort to try to get back on track. That's just the economy, or that's just the economics of it all. Like I said, I'm
well,
I'm
so
just
what I'm concerned. Okay, so obviously higher market interest rates are going to, first of all, I want to say, okay, that's going to have a negative impact on the stock market, correct? Would you say that's
most likely.
what the fair assessment?
Well,
Well, if it's
I will
that's
say,
the purpose of it. If we're
Okay,
lowering interest rates,
right, because raising interest rates is going to make borrowing money more expensive.
meaning people are going to spend less
Right,
and have
and
less
well,
money
and
to put
and
into the
then
market.
even bigger than that though, the cost of doing business is going to rise for public and private companies.
Hmm.
Okay, so this goes back to what I was saying earlier. Over time, you know, higher cost and less business is going to mean what? Lower revenues, lower earnings for these public firms, right?
Hmm.
And so, and to me, potentially, I see this as, their growth rate, their stock values are going to drop. I mean, the market's what, up above what, 31,000 now, right? 31, 32, or is that where we at?
Oh yeah, it's almost at 35.
Really? See, so this is how much I haven't been. Okay. So I have a quote here. So this was a guy from, this was a Silicon, this is an investor. This guy said, if the cost of borrowing money from a bank increases, the opportunity to expand the investment in capital goods by a corporation stalls. The interest rate may be so high that many companies will not be able to afford to grow. And this is a guy who's kind of a long term investor too, you know, and one of the other areas I was doing when I was doing some of my research, they were talking about is even with bonds. If you buy in these long term, what they call them, treasury bonds or whatever they are, they're saying that the market prices of existing bonds, those decline. Okay,
Hmm.
to me, the only thing that's going to benefit and I have yet to have a save. I mean, like I said, it wasn't until when I was middle school that it paid to have a savings account. I mean, today savings accounts don't yield anything. I mean, not even
Savings accounts are losing accounts right now.
you're not getting anything from that. You know, so I mean, I guess that's going to be good on your what is it? AP? Is that AP? Is that APY? That's APY, right? That on say on savings bonds and or
I don't
not,
remember.
yeah. And so
It's an acronym for
yeah,
something.
I can't. I get on my I get on. That's see. This is why we
Annual
have the
percentage yield or something
right.
like that.
Yeah, this is why we have Hank on. This is why we have the expert on. So I know he hates that. He hates that. But I to me there's no good end for this, and I don't know. Maybe I'm doomsaying. What can be tell either one of you guys? What do you see as the positive from this?
They're
What
only doing it. I mean, the only thing that I can think of that they're doing this is for us to slow down inflation in the supply chains. No, they're not. It's you can't have your cake and eat it too.
not in this
Essentially,
situation you can't. No.
no. I mean, we're either going to be paying out the wazoo for bread and gas and meat for the rest of our lives, or we're going to have to go back to the 80s for a little bit. And I'm not saying I want that. I'm not saying that's my opinion. I don't have a choice. I got to wake up, go to work, take care of my family, go back to bed, do it all over again either way.
Right.
But I, it's that's what I was saying. I think I said that earlier. If they do it too fast, if they raise rates too fast, people are going to get laid off. Companies aren't going to be able to spend much money anymore. So could spark another recession.
Well,
So
what do we sit? We're sitting at 4. Are we still at 4.3%? I believe is what the number was the other day for unemployment. So we're at 4.3 right now for unemployment, and this and that's another thing that befuddles me. And maybe you guys can we've had this discussion too, but I think this plays a lot into it. This plays a huge part into it. This whole unemployment phenomenon that the Labor Department reported last quarter 6 point, and Joe wasn't lying when he said this, 6.3 million new jobs last quarter, that's impressive. Okay, but what they don't tell you is out of those 6.3 million jobs, how many of them are actually being filled? How many of those are actually being filled? I've told my students this, that we are living in such a strange time right now because we're living in a time where we have more jobs than what we have unemployed. And I don't think, I'm 47, but I can't remember a time when you could say, "Oh my goodness," you know, and when you break this down, we're doing this to ourselves. When you really think about it, why is the demand so high? Because the supply's not there. Why is the supply not there? Go back to what we said earlier. COVID shutdown. Okay, COVID shutdown. Boom, COVID shutdown. Okay, for example, when we talk about building supplies, I have a few friends who work in the lumberyard business, and they will tell you that for that period of COVID, the epoxy resin plant that was in Minnesota that is used to make your basically your plywood, that those plants were offline for whatever it was, 6 or 7 months. Okay, those plants were offline. So then what you end up having then is you're driving up the supply. You're driving down the supply of plywood, and you're driving up prices. Okay, now COVID's over. All right, you're not getting your COVID paycheck anymore. Why haven't we caught back up? Because in most sectors, what you're seeing is people aren't showing up to work. When you look at your local mom and pop store, okay, example, this last weekend we went up to Quincy to go. We took one of Janine's friends was in town. We went up to Fuji Steakhouse. Kids always like to go to Five Below and blow their allowance money at this Five Below store. A store that 3 years ago would have been open until 10 o'clock, but now is only open until 8. Why are they only open until 8? They don't have the staff. Okay, your local Walmart. The Walmart in Bowling Green, Missouri, and I don't know how it is in Chicago or in Kansas City, but your local Walmart now is no longer open 24 hours a day. Why not? Because they cannot get the staff to work it. Walmart is offering $15 an hour starting now. Okay, I have high school students right now that are making close to $18 an hour, and they get as many hours a week as they want. They
And they got the college benefits now too,
and paying for
and
college,
really good benefits.
paying for college, and they still cannot get enough people to work. So when you look at what inflation is, why is inflation happening? Well, I mean, part of it is higher wages, but I still think that part of it is the supply and demand thing. And that's why I'm afraid of saying, okay, so, and Hank, you said this 3 times already tonight. So if we introduce a higher interest rate, okay, so that's going to slow people down from borrowing money, or so we think, you know, and it's going to cause people to borrow less. But so if I have less disposable income, or I guess the idea is I'm going to have more disposable income because I'm not going to be paying on loans and stuff. I mean, this is just where I get confused at, because I don't see what the light is at the end of the tunnel, to tell you the truth. This is what I'm confused about, because I can't see what the end game is other than trying to control inflation, because it's just not the same situation I remember as a kid. Let's just put it that way. And as a historian, when I look back and I study and I say, okay, here's what happened back in the 80s. I can point to what happened in the 80s. Interest rates were high, jobs were few, people were out of work, your dollar didn't, people weren't making that much money, and so I mean, I don't get what the end game is going to be with all of this.
I
Yeah.
don't think anybody knows what the end game's going to be in all this. I mean, I think Hank made a good point. We just printed $8 trillion. We just introduced it $8 trillion into our economy in a matter of a very, very short time span. I mean, if you look at the history, like look at Venezuela for an example. Venezuela, and there was another country. So I watched this video, and they were showing like other countries that did a mass printing of money, and it just completely crumbled their economies. Now, the U.S. is a different country, though. I mean, we are a world superpower. We hold the world reserve currency, and so our situation is a little bit different. But I do think there's going to be some type of fallout from this. Now, I think the raising of interest rates may help kind of, not make the fallout as bad. But I mean, and this is like a whole other rabbit hole, but there's so many other catalysts that could sink our economy right now in the world. I mean, you got the Russian and Ukrainian war, you got the Evergrande crisis that I don't think a lot of people even know what's going on. You got COVID restrictions coming back in China. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. But
You
that's
noticed just today a couple high-ranking political officials tested positive for COVID.
We're at
oh, really? Did they?
Yeah, like 3 or 4 people that is
Barack
alarming
Obama.
enough to
Barack
put.
Obama
Yeah,
has it. So I mean,
yeah, Obama last week, Paskey, Hillary Clinton just today. It's just kind of ironic.
I think. No,
No,
I'm not
no,
even going
no,
to say it.
no conspiracy
I'm not
theories.
even
It's
going to
just like
say it.
it's coming.
Nothing to.
The next wave is
nothing to
here.
see. Nothing to see here. Well, and
It's all
this is
smoke and mirrors.
nothing to see here. Don't look at the man behind the mirror. Don't look at that. but
Trump 2024.
Margo make
Well,
America great. Oh, here we go. Let's not our listening. Yes, let's get
did we just get
listening.
booted?
Yeah, we'll get. I'm sure. Well, actually, we may get promoted by the liberal side, so I don't know.
Gotta give the listeners what they want. Come on, man.
Yeah, I know. But so who's going to benefit other than banks? Who is going to benefit from rising interest rates?
It's a good question. Probably the same people that benefited from the last 2 years. I I like the guy a lot, but I saw a stat I think just yesterday where Elon Musk's wealth went up 871% since the beginning of COVID. Like,
Yeah, dude, his
Oh
stock
my
has risen
God.
ridiculously. Like,
yeah,
Well,
and yeah,
I mean, one of the things that this was another thing that I looked at our friends over at Investopedia.com. I like reading some of their stuff
jeez.
sometimes. What they were saying is the financial sector has been historically among the most sensitive to change in interest rates, with profit margins that actually expand as rates climb. Entities like you said, banks, insurance companies, brokerage firms, and money managers generally benefit from higher interest rates. But and again, like we said, savings accounts, certificates of deposits, your stocks with with any of these banking companies, uh, brokerage firms, but beyond financials, you know, maybe it's splurging on lower cost items such as kitchen appliances, home electronics, some of your lower end stuff. I mean, if you're not going to take out, for the housing mood to take out what you're going to take out to invest on houses, and I, what's killing me right now, and I'm sure you guys are seeing, I know you guys are seeing this more in the bigger cities than we are out here. The dash to borrow money to build these houses has been more than anything that I've ever seen. I've mentioned this before in the past. My old DJ partner, who when I was still doing DJing with my buddy, who's a house framer, and we still talk. They have contracts extended into to late 2023 right now to frame houses. He used to 5 years ago. I could tell when I would work a job alone when I could work a job with him, because usually the jobs in winter, the DJ jobs we had in winter, he'd be there with me. During the summertime he would work 12, 15 hours a day, but during the winter he's laid off because there wasn't anything there. And now for the last 3 years, I mean, he's working 12 months out of the year now because people are borrowing obscene amounts of money to build these houses. And this was the other area that I wanted to go into with this whole thing. You're paying you're paying $300,000 to build a house that's going to be worth maybe $150,000 in 10 or 15 years, because eventually the market is going to come back down. I mean, I mean, Hank, I mean, how long has it been since we've had a true market correction? When
it's a good
you,
question.
I mean, I can't think of a where we've lost more than.
What's your definition of a correction? Give me a percentage.
Exactly. So there's completely different definitions for recession and depression and correction. I think technically there was a correction in March or April of 2020,
Hmm.
It was
but
like 40%, wasn't it?
Right.
Yeah,
yeah, but it
40%.
bounced right back within the next couple months. It was like almost like
Yeah,
it didn't even happen. Those 2 months were hell, but I'd have to say '08, '09.
Yeah, during the recession of 08, 09, you know, that was for a lot of people. I mean, that was the beginning of from 2008 to 2013. I did not have a pay raise. That had been the longest that we had gone without a cost of living increase. And to me, those were the leanest years that I remember, that I can remember in recent history. And you guys were still in school then, and I mean, I just look back to those times, and I knew that the kids who were graduating were going to go out, and these, especially these tech guys who were going out and welding and building trades and stuff like that, were going to be making more money than I was.
Yeah.
But to me, it's hard to teach economics right now because the historical models that we have went by for the last for the last 100 years. I mean, you can look at a stock market. I mean, you can look at an economic trend that roller coasters. You have your periods of expansion, you have your peak, you have your downturn, you have your trough, you have your period of expansion again. And to me, and again, I'm not a ancient guy, but to me, we haven't seen that kind of roller coaster ride. You know, mid late '90s. In 2000. That's why I asked you about the correction, Hank, because I think we had the hiccup in 2008, 2009, but like you just said, we quickly recovered that. You know, and
The dot-com bubble, though, it was like a
well,
10-year.
the dot com thing. I mean, a lot of guys lost their. I mean, everything in that. You know, so I to me, and I'm the guy who's seen the glass half empty. But to me, there's got to be a breaking point. I mean, how is it that we can still have an economy that still is roller coastering up? I mean, don't you think that there shouldn't there be that peak somewhere that when we get there, it's going to just and when we go down, it's going to go down quick? Or do we have enough safeguards built into the system now to where that's not going to happen, and we're, you know, I don't know.
I think I think Hank might agree with me in this statement. No one knows one what the stock market or the economy is going to do. If you look at the history of it, it goes down, it goes up, goes flying back down, it'll go flying back up. It's it's an inevitable thing. Eventually, it's going to go down, and then eventually, it's going to go back up again. Hank, you got anything to add to that? I mean,
Yeah.
how they can maybe they can mitigate how bad it goes down, but I mean, it's going to go down eventually. No
Yeah.
one knows when.
There's a quote that I've heard before. I think it's in the book that I sent you and Sean recently. It's talking about people that are market timers and market. They think they can time the market and they know what the next step is, and those people are called liars and idiots.
Yeah,
Like
Yeah.
no one has any idea. There are things like interest rate hikes and supply chains and inflations that are going to affect it, but like you said, this is just kind of an odd situation. There's when you're thinking about interest rates, I was thinking about this earlier. Like, man, I really wish I could have bought a house or would have bought a house the last couple of years. Like you said, Travis, you got a really good rate. But if rates are going up, what's that going to do in the short term? It's probably going to hurt the low middle class that need to rent apartments because those prices are just probably going to go up, right? At least in the short term. I had some clients in Minnesota and Minneapolis that they're like, we'll be renting our entire lives. There's no way we're going to get in a house right now. Housing market's too crazy. And then now interest rates are going up. The housing market was so crazy, the apartment complexes were raising their rates because they
no,
had
it
to live
was yeah.
somewhere. So I don't see in the short term it doing too much, but like I said, I'm not the expert here. I'm
Well,
just riding the roller coaster like everybody
and
else.
if we could, I mean, chase it just a wee bit farther down the rabbit hole. I mean, This is kind of perfectly timed for me, and because the kids are going through. We're talking about the Great Depression. Of course, every time that we go through the Great Depression, kids always ask, "Is it always possible to have great?" It's always possible. It's always possible. Like you said, nobody can predict. But I also think that the government had put in a lot of safeguards after the Depression because you had number one, you had the SEC step in, Securities and
Yeah.
Exchange Commission. They stepped in and said, "Okay, we're going to have the power. If we want to flip the switch off on the market when it starts taking a nosedive, we're going to flip the switch off." And if I am correct on my history, I believe that the SEC, in the history of the SEC, they've only done that once or twice where they've put the click down on trading. Um, but you have agencies like that. And then when of course, the Federal Reserve was actually created back in Woodrow Wilson's day, okay, as a means to better monitor the money supply and to have that under some kind of regulatory sense, which everybody raised a sense about. Because one thing we haven't mentioned in all of this, the Federal Reserve is not, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the Federal Reserve is not directly related to the government. Am I
It's a
wrong?
private.
It's a
They're
private,
private.
so it is a private institution that was set up by the government. It was set up by Woodrow Wilson's. I forgot what the name of that banking act was called now, but it was back in 19
32.
yeah, it was back. Well, it was before that, I thought, but he.
Was it before?
Oh,
Yeah,
it was
there was
before the New Deal. The
yeah,
reserve was set up before the New Deal, before the
it was in the
Depression even.
20s.
Yeah, and so to me, to have a private entity have that much control. Now these guys will go and they'll testify before Congress, and I don't want to say they answer to Congress, but the fact that our financial future and our economy is controlled by an independent agency has always bothered me, and to this day still bothers me. But if you leave it in the hands of the government, like you said, Travis, or you said before, when you leave it up to the government, they slide $8 billion out there into, you know, to when you leave it up to the government to do it. I mean, they're going to crap them. They're going to crap the bed, and then they're going to just something crazy is going to happen. I
Yeah, but I don't know. Make no mistake, the government has a huge influence on the Federal Reserve,
yeah,
and
yeah.
I don't think private or government. I don't really. I think it's all just a label,
Well,
you know.
and so in saying all of that, um, before we go tonight, I do want to give us some plus. Talking about small business, and we do have to give our advertisers a little bit of a plug tonight. Travis, give us a little bit of a shout. Oh, he's getting the product. Here it comes. He's getting the product.
Ah,
Where's the product? Oh yeah.
yes, yes,
Show us the
yes. All right.
product.
So,
Show us the product.
what we got for you guys? We have American traditional coffee. This is the decaf. We got decaf K cups now. A lot of people have been asking for these. Just had a cup myself. I got a big 60 pack. We sell 60 packs
Whoa.
of K cups too.
Dang.
Yeah.
What
I'm gonna give some of these to the guys at work.
so what's the price on a 60 pack? So I know what to order.
Oh, I couldn't even tell you off the top of my head, but we do have a discount code for listeners of the podcast. Voice of Reason, all lowercase, will save you 10% off any order, and shipping is always free.
There it is.
We weren't like that before, but now shipping is free. So order
Well,
as much as you want, get that 10% off, and you got shipping covered.
and
Website looks cool too.
the
Looks good.
website. I was going to tell you, I did visit the website actually this evening as I was redoing all the stuff on our Restream app. You guys have got that looking pretty sharp over there. Um, how long you've
It's
had the
not bad.
what you've had the rebrand on now for what, about 3 months now, 4 months?
Yeah, about three-ish months, I
Yeah,
think.
yeah, yeah.
Still got some stuff I'm trying to work on. It's owning the business is a nightmare. It really is.
You guys are doing a knockdown. You guys are doing a knockdown job with that. Um, we
Trying to
over
get some charity stuff going soon. It's been hard, but
I
it's coming
we
along.
I
So
I'm going to leak this out, and I'll tell Travis what's going to happen after we're done tonight. But I am doing some research on Voice of Reason merch.
Nice.
I ordered a sample from a supplier last week, and I am very super stoked about it. And hopefully by next week or the week after next, I will be sporting our. And if it goes well and we can have a nice go between with these folks, we're looking at some pretty sweet Voice of Reason merch, which I'm excited about
awesome.
that. Also, and we'll go. We've talked about this, and I want to go ahead and put this out there for. And I know we're getting this at the tail end, and maybe people aren't sticking on this long or not. But what we are planning on doing, and we're just going to roll this out right now for our friends. If you have a business that you want to advertise and you would like to be a part of the Voice of Reason, by the way, we are now up as of today 507 followers, over 400 plus likes on Facebook, which takes us,
That's
you
awesome.
know, to a new realm. Our subscribers are getting close to 40 on YouTube. We got a long ways to go on YouTube. But what we are wanting to do with our businesses, and this is what we're going to do. We are willing to do 1 month of free advertising for you if you mention us on your Facebook, on your web page, and we'll give you a free, and then we'll go from there. So if you are interested or you know somebody who's interested, you want us to give you a shout out for your business, contact us. Take advantage of our new deal that we're rolling this out, that we are going to give you a month trial for free. We will mention your business and all we ask is that and we'll give you some material you can, hang out, as heard on Voice of Reason podcast, and you help us, we help you, and then we'll go from there. So that is something else that is going on right now. So check us out with that. And also mentioning Van Beber and Son DJ Services also sponsoring our restreaming service tonight. And we have three confirmed dates already this year. Last year we confirmed 13, but we have plenty of summer dates available. And if you mention the Voice of Reason podcast, I'm going to step further. I'm taking the additional. If you mention the Voice of Reason podcast, we will give you a 15% discount on our services. So please give us a shout out. You have AmericanTraditionalCoffee.com. You can go to Facebook.com and look at V and Son DJ Services, and that's where you will find us at. But anyway, and also one other thing we want to mention before we close out tonight, we did get some of you who follow Sean on Facebook. He is enjoying the life out in LA. I don't know, Travis, if he's been texting you and Hank or whatever. He seems to be having a pretty good time. He said that he got to work with Booker T.
Yeah, he's producing a show tonight with 5-time world champion Booker T.
Booker T. If you're a follower of wrestling, Sean is working with Booker freaking T tonight.
I just saw a video of him sitting in the back like this green room, just chilling with Booker T, drinking coffee together.
Oh my God! That we're so proud of our buddy Sean. He is going to have. I hope that he's going to be taking a listen to the podcast later on. I know how Sean does. He'll probably download it on Spotify tomorrow and give it a listen. But we are so proud of our buddy Sean. Yeah. Any final words tonight, gentlemen? Thank you, Hank. Any final words for the folks at home tonight?
Yeah, you forgot to mention that with the 15% discount, you and your son will break dance at whatever event you're going to be working at.
Only if it's at when your wedding happens, Hank. Oh, is that too soon? Is that too soon? I'm sorry. Is that too soon? Too soon?
You probably just jinxed me.
Yeah.
But we'll see if you're free in the next 12 months. We
You
might have
know,
something up my
yeah,
sleeve.
you or your little brother both. I'll just wait for it. I'll hold my breath for both of those, and we'll see what happens.
He's not allowed if there's an open bar.
So, Travis, you got anything?
No, thanks, all our listeners for listening. Hank, always great to have you on, man. Hope to have you on more. Yeah, this was a good episode. This is a topic I've been wanting to talk about for a while. I'm not an expert. I'm just a nerd at it with it. So this was fun.
Yes, and thank you, Hank, for your. And I just want to say it one more time, just to piss him off. Your expert opinion on tonight's topic.
If I'm an expert, your listeners are going to be real pissed. And the country's in a lot of trouble.
Oh, man. Well, this has been the Voice of Reason podcast. You can find us on Spotify, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Amazon Radio, on our good friend Alexa. You will find her. You will find us everywhere, all over the place. There's nowhere where you can't find us. So please subscribe, share, like, tell your friends, make them smarter by referring them to us, except for tonight's episode where Hank was the expert. So I can't pass that up. I'm sorry. Anyway, thank you guys for listening. We'll see you all next week on the Voice of Reason podcast 2022.
Hi, guys.
Yeah.